Everyone, today we're going to be working on 9.5 system notes pre-substitution. So when we start, we're going to go ahead and start with this number 1. And remember, you want to get your variable or your letter all by itself. So you have your equals sign and you have a left side and a right side. I want to get my x all by itself on the left side. So in order to do that, I have to get rid of that -1 first. So the 5 and the x are connected. And if I want that x to stay over there, that 5x has to stay over there for the last thing. So right now I'm going to get rid of my -1. So to get rid of that, I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I get 5x on my left side and equals 10 on my right. When a letter and a number are together, that means they're being multiplied. So I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to divide both of them by 5. And I get x equals 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at number 2. I'm also going to draw that line down of my equal sign again. Okay, I'm going to look on my left side and my right side. So normally you want to take your constant or the one without a letter away first. But before that, I want to simplify. I see that I have a 7y minus 3y. Because they have the same letter, I can combine those. Those are called like terms. So if I take that 7y and I do exactly what it's asking me to do, it says minus 3y. That gives me a 4y. I still have this -2 and I still have equals 14. To get rid of that -2, I'm going to add 2 to both sides, which leaves me with 4y equals 16. And then to get rid of that 4 by that y, those are being multiplied, so I'm going to divide, and I get y equals 4. Let's look at number 3. Okay, same thing. I'm going to find my equals. And I have a left side and a right side. On this one, I have 13x minus 3 on one side and 5x plus 13 on the other. I want to get my x's together, but one's on my left and one's on my right. I'm going to go ahead and take that 5x and I'm going to move it over to my left side. So it's a positive 5x. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to say minus 5x and minus 5x. So 13x minus 5x, that's going to give me 8x. I still have that -3. Equals goes in the middle. Those 5x's cancel out, so there's no longer there, and I'm going to say equals 13. Okay, my 8x I want to leave for the last thing, so I'm going to add 3 to both sides to get rid of that -3. So I still have an 8x on my left and a 16 on my right. Then divide by 8, divide by 8, and I get x equals 2. Okay, let's look at the last one on the front side here. We have 6, and then we have parentheses y minus 2 equals -6. So when I look at that one, because that 6 is outside of the parentheses, I have to distribute it. So 6 times y is going to give me a 6y. And then your 6 times 2 is going to give you a 12. It's not just a regular 2, so notice you have a negative in the middle, so I'm going to keep that negative. I'm going to put a 12 right here. So equals -6. Okay, if I want my 6y as the last thing I'm going to move, I'm going to add 12 to both sides. I'm doing the opposite. So those 12s are gone. I have 6y equals -6. Whoops, I didn't realize I wrote 112 over here. Let's fix that. That looks better. Okay, -6 plus 12 is going to give me a +6. So I have 6y equals 6. So I'm going to divide by 6, and I get y equals 1. Okay, let's look at page 2, back side here. This one says substitute the value in and solve for the remaining variable. Okay, so when it says substitute in, you have 2 equations. You have 5x minus 1 equals y, and then you also have what I like to call this key. So the key is what this one is, where it says x equals or y equals. That's going to be our key. So when it says x equals 4, I'm going to take this 4 right here, and I'm going to plug it in because it's x equals. I'm going to plug that in right there. So for this one, I'm going to start with my 5. Oops. Okay, I want to plug in my 4, so I'm going to use a parenthesis and put my 4 in there. I have -1 equals y. So now we're like the front side, where we have a left side and a right side. I have a 5 outside of my parentheses, so I have to distribute. That's going to turn into a 20. And we have -1 equals y. And then I'm just going to do that 20 minus 1, and I get 19 equals y. Once I have that 19 equals y, I am done. I can just stop right there. The directions say solve for the remaining value, or variable. I said the value again, variable. Well, this one already says x equals 4, so we know that my x and my y, my x was 4 and my y was 19. So we don't have to solve this one because it's giving us what our x is. Okay, so let's look at number 8. Okay, I'm going to look at what we call our key. So this is my key, y equals 2, and I'm going to take whatever it equals, which is this 2, and I'm going to substitute it in for the y. So I'm going to put it right there. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite that whole problem over again, but when I get to that y, I'm going to use parentheses and put a 2 in it. So I'm going to start here, 2x minus 3 times 2 equals 8. Okay, when I look through there, I only have, so if you look at the whole problem, 2x minus 3y equals 8, you have both an x and a y. The whole reason we're substituting in is you only want one variable left, or one letter left. So when I look at this, I just have the letter x, and I could have more than one x throughout that equation as long as they're all x's. But you can't solve it if you have an x and a y. That's what elimination is. We eliminated one of them and substituted in another one. Okay, so now I'm going to look. My 2x is going to stay at 2x. I have a -3, and I'm distributing it to that 2, so that's going to give me a -6, and that's going to equal 8. If I want my 2x to be the last thing that I move over, first thing I'm going to do is add 6, and I get 2x equals 14. And then I'm going to divide by 2 and divide by 2, and I get x equals 7. Okay, so if I were to make this a point, my x is my 7, and it says my y was a 2. So this would be my final answer. Okay, let's look at number 9. Again, we're going to take our key, which is over here. So this one says x equals 4y. So I'm going to take all of this for y. I'm going to stick it in where the x is, because that's what the x equals. So I want that 4y right here. And because there's two things and there's a number outside, we're going to use parentheses around that x. So I'm going to rewrite the whole problem. So this one's going to be 5y equals 15 plus 5 parentheses. Now I'm going to put that 4y in there. I'm going to find my left side and my right side. So 5y is going to stay 5y equals, my 15 is not going to change right now, so I'm going to leave that a 15. Because you have a number outside of the parenthesis, I'm going to distribute that. Distribute means they're going to multiply, so it's going to be plus 20, and don't forget the y. 5 times 4 is 20, but there's also a y there. Okay, I want to get that 20y because I have a y on my left side and a y on my right side. I want to get those together. When I look at the right side, you have 15 on the right side. That's called your constant. So let's move that 20y over on the left side by that 5y. So I'm going to subtract 20y and subtract 20y. That leaves me with negative 15y equals 15. These ones cancel out. And then if I want to get y by itself, I'm going to divide by negative 15, divide by negative 15, and I get y equals negative 1. Okay, so if I were to put these as an ordered pair, my y is negative 1. Remember, this is where your x goes, this is where your y goes. So y is negative 1. So now I want to find x. Okay, But this time it says x equals 4y. It doesn't say x equals 2 or x equals 6 or x equals an actual number. It says 4y. So now we have to do a little bit more math. So I'm going to say x equals 4. Then I'm going to plug my y in. Well, I found that my y was this -1. So I'm going to stick that -1 right where that y is. So I'm going to put that -1 in there. Oops, make that blue so it matches the other ones. Okay, I still have a left side and a right side. My x is going to stay in x. My equals goes in the middle. Now I have to distribute this 4 to that -1. 4 times -1 is -4. Okay, and now that it's all by itself, it says x equals -4. I can just put that -4 right there. So I just solved that. So that could be a point on a graph, -4, 1. Sorry, -4, -1. Okay, let's do the same thing with number 10. First thing I'm going to look at is my key. This is my key. Okay, it says y equals, so whatever y equals, which is this portion of it, I'm going to stick where the y is. Okay, because there's a 3 on the outside, I'm going to use parentheses around that y and stick all of this inside the parentheses. So I'm going to start at the beginning where it says 2x plus 3 parenthesis 2x plus 10 equals 6. Okay, so I just followed it all the way through. Got a left side and a right side. When I start at the beginning, 2x, that's not going to change. That's going to stay at 2x. I get to by plus 3, but then I have parentheses, so I know I have to distribute. So I'm going to distribute this 3 to the 2, and that's going to give me a plus 6x. And then I want to distribute this 3 to the 10, and that's going to give me plus 30. And then I'm going to say equals 6. So I'm just following it all the way through. When I look on my left side, I notice that I have a 2x and a 6x. Together, those make 8x. So I'm going to simplify those and say 8x. I still have plus 30 equals 6. I want to leave 8x for the last thing I move over. So I'm going to subtract 30, and I get 8x equals, this is going to be a -24. Then I'm going to divide by 8, and I get x equals, it's going to be a negative number because my negative is on my 24, so -3. Okay, so we found our x. So if I were to make this an ordered pair, we found our x goes right here. My -3 is right there. Okay, now I need to find my y. When I look, this whole thing says y equals. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this -3 in. I'm going to plug it in where the x is at. So maybe I should have done that in another color. Let's do that yellow. That -3, I'm going to plug in right there where that x is. Because I have a number in front of it, I have to use parentheses around it. So I'm going to get those parentheses right there. Okay, so I'm going to say y equals 2 parenthesis -3 plus 10. My line, so I have a left and a right. My y is not going to change. Y equals 2 times -3 is -6 plus 10. Y is not going to change. These are alike terms. So -6 plus 10, I can combine those, and that's going to give me a positive 4. So my answer is -3, 4. So I'm going to go left 3 and then up 4 and plot that on a graph. Okay, let's move on to number 11. Again, same thing. We're going to start with our key. Here's our whole key. And with that key, we're just going to take a portion of it. So all the way, there's a negative in front of that 3. And it says x equals, so where my x is, I'm going to stick in everything that's blue. And because you have a number in front of it, that has to have parentheses around it. Okay, so it's a -4 in the beginning, so I'm going to write -4. I'm going to start my parenthesis and put -3y plus 7, close my parenthesis, plus 8y equals 12. So I just followed it all the way through. Okay, I have a number outside the parentheses. So first thing I'm going to do is distribute. So negative 4 times negative 3 is going to give me a positive 12y. Now I'm going to distribute that negative 4 to that 7, and that's going to give me a negative, because I have a negative out front and a positive 7, the negative always will be there. So if you have a negative and a positive and you're multiplying, you keep your negative. So I'm going to use it like a subtraction. I'm going to say negative 28. Okay, I'm not going to distribute that negative 4 to that 8y because it's outside the parentheses. So then I'm just going to say plus 8y. Equals stays in the middle. Go ahead and write my 12. Okay, from there, I see that I have two y's. I have 12y here and 8y here. So I'm going to combine those. So 12y plus 8y is going to give me a 20y. I still have minus 28. And I have equals 12. Okay, to get rid of that minus 28, I'm going to add 28. Which leaves me with 20y on my left side. Equals 12 plus 28 is going to give me 40. If I wanted to get that y by itself, I'm going to divide by 20, divide by 20, and I get y equals 2. Okay, now that I have this y, that's 2, I want to solve for my x. So I'm going to plug that y in right in that spot right there. Okay, before I do that, let's get our ordered pair going. Oh geez, I'm just all sorts of a mess over here. Okay, so I found my y. Y sits on the right side of the ordered pair. So I need to find my x. Just so happens that red highlighted says x equals. So I'm going to say x equals negative 3, parenthesis 2, plus 7. Get my sides going. My x is going to stay at x. I have a number outside of a parenthesis, so I'm going to distribute. So negative 3 times 2. It's going to give me a negative 6. I still have plus 7. X is not going to change. These are like terms, so I'm going to combine those together. So negative 6 plus 7 is going to give me a negative 1. Sorry. No, it's not. It's going to give me a positive 1. So that's going to be a positive 1. So this is going to be my point. 1, 2. Okay, number 12, our last one. Again, you're going to look at your y equals, my key, and with that key, I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to stick it where my y is, because that's what y equals. There's a number out front, so I need to use parentheses. So I'm going to put parentheses around there, and then I'm just going to follow it all the way through. So it starts with a 6. I'm going to use parentheses, 6 plus 3x, close my parenthesis, goes on to equals, and it says 3x plus 6. And I have my left side and my right side. The number outside of my parentheses, so I'm going to distribute. So 36, and I have to distribute that 6 to that 3x. So that's going to give me plus 18x. That's going to equal 3x plus 6. Okay, so when I look at this one, I have x's on my left side and x's on my right side. Let's start by getting our x's together. So I'm going to move that 3x on the right side over with that 18x on the left. You could do it either way. I just tend to really like my variable or my letter on the left side. So I'm going to say minus 3x, minus 3x. So 36 is going to stay at 36. 18 minus 3 is going to give me 15x. Equals goes in the middle. Those are gone right there. So equals 6. Okay, so if I want to get that x by itself, it's the 15x, so it's the thing closest to the equal sign. That's okay that it's closest to the equal sign. We're used to our constant being over there, but our constant right now is at 36. So I'm going to subtract that 36 minus 36. So I still have 15x on my left side, and negative 6 minus 36 is going to give me a negative 30. I'm going to divide by 15, divide by 15, x equals negative 2. Okay, so we did the first thing. We found our x, which is a negative 2. So now I need to find my y. Well, remember that this says y equals, so if I plug my x in, so if I take this x and I plug it where the x is right here, that will solve for my y. So I'm going to say y equals 6 plus 3, parenthesis, negative 2, close my parenthesis. Get my left side and my right side. And I say y equals 6. And then I have to distribute 3 times negative 2. 3 times negative 2 is going to give me a minus. That negative is going to be, well, it's going to be a negative number, but we're going to use it as a subtraction. So 3 times 2 is 6. So I get y equals 0. And I'm just going to put that 0 right there. All right, you have everything you need to work on 9.5 practice. If you ever need to slow down to re-watch a part, go ahead and do that, but you have what you need to work on 9.5.